I saw a video about Auntie Kemi Badenoch, the one who loves Nigeria with all her heart. Yeah, so she talked about her experience in secondary school. She mentioned her secondary school, and coincidentally, guys, that is my secondary school. I went to FGGC Shagamu, Federal Government Girls College, Shagamu. When I heard that she mentioned the school, I said I'm not going to read anything anybody says on the internet, like on Twitter. I'm going to go watch the video and see if what she's saying is true. Because there are times I've heard her talk and I'm like, this woman is just a bitter soul. She's just full of hate for Nigeria. What is wrong with her? So I said, let me just go see the video and form an opinion to see whether this time she's saying the right thing about my alma mater.
I went to a secondary school. It was called a federal government girls' school in a place called Shagamu. And that was like being in prison. When I tell the stories about using a machete and having, because there are no lawnmowers, that's the place that I'm talking about, having to fetch buckets of water.
This is a boarding school?
Yes, it's a federal boarding school. And it was very...
You shared a dormitory with other girls?
We're about 150, I think. 20 to 30 in a room.
And so the machete is for cutting the grass?
Yes, cutting the grass.
Explain why were you cutting the grass?
Well, because, who else is going to cut the grass? And it was like Lord of the Flies. The students were in control. We needed to look after the school grounds. So using a machete, having to clean toilets with no running water. I'm not going to go into the description of that, but it is very, very, very grotty.
Let's just unpack this. She mentioned cutting grass. I joined Shagamu when I was 10 years old. All the way from Abuja to Ogun State. I joined Federal Government Girls College, Shagamu. I was clueless. That was the first time I've ever been away from home for an extended period of time. But I would confess that there was an initial excitement. I was excited to be away from home, this new sense of independence, even the cutlass, because you buy cutlass, they'll give you cutlass, scrubbing brush, and all these cleaning things. So I was quite excited. This independence, they sweet me, they shock me, So even the cutlass, I was so eager. So the first time that I was supposed to cut grass, I was eager. I don't even know how to cut grass. Let's explain something about the... Shagamu is in the tropics somehow. It's in the tropics, like rain falls there regularly. And the thing about cutting grass there is the ground is so filled with water and the weeds, There are times when they will tell you to cut elephant grasses. That's the tall one. If it's a punishment, like separate punishment directed at you. But the normal grasses you will cut are low grasses. But you might assume that because it's a low grass rather, it is easy to cut. That is a lie. It is, to me, in my opinion, it's even harder. Because the taller grasses, you are not mandated. They don't want to see the ground. But with low grasses, they want to see the earth. And they don't want to see any green. It's torture, guys. It's torture. Some people, maybe in your household, before you came to secondary school, you were cutting grass like a prisoner. But it was... The novelty washed off in the first 5 minutes. Because all of a sudden, my hand started paining me. Across this side, bruises, started, you see blisters. And in the blisters, because I've handled the machete for so long, and I get to bend it. So when I'm cutting, you get to cut it, and you're cutting soil, and the soil is heavy because of rain. And it's so difficult. And you develop a blister, and the blister will be filled with liquid. And the blisters will burst. And how the manual labor is done is that, I think on Thursdays for class manual labor, your class gets to cut around the school premises. And on Fridays for hostel manual labor, where you're in your hostel, you get to cut grass around your hostel dorm. So if you have a particularly tough place to cut on a Thursday, you have blisters. Then on Friday too, you're mandated to cut grass, and you're holding a cutlass, and you're cutting, and you're in pain. And somebody will tell you that's good, it builds character. That is not true. The only time I will agree that it's going to build character is if I'm a dysfunctional person, I'm an unruly pupil, I'm stubborn, and I need to be punished for my stubbornness. But to be existing normally as a pupil, and you're telling me to cut grass, and that happens over and over again. I think even till now, this part of my hand is still a bit tough because of developing bruises over and over in cutting grass. So she's correct. You can say anything about Kemi Badenoch, but in that area, she is correct. I was 10 years old. I started cutting grass from 10 years old. To me, it's dysfunctional. I would never normalize it. I would say it's okay, it's fine. Please, there are people in other schools. They never cut grass, and they're the sweetest individuals. They're nice. They didn't learn any unique life lessons from cutting grass. I don't know what I learned from cutting grass. And there are times when sometimes your seniors punish you, and you cut and cut and cut, and you are cutting grass, and your spirit is broken. Some other girls that are made of iron, maybe their spirits get renewed, and they're like going through a crucible, makes them stronger. Some of us are not like that. I remember when I left Shagamu, when I was leaving Shagamu. Now, I think when I was in SS3, and then I saw some of my mates crying, and I couldn't cry because from the moment I stepped my foot in Shagamu till the moment I left, I felt like I was in a prison. And the only thing I loved about Shagamu that I could say I liked were my friends. Every other thing I hated, and I'm not kidding, I hated every other thing. The whole flogging, they used to flog us, bruh. You will see girls like our thighs, not our calves. You will see these black marks because they've used what they call pancreas to flog you at the back of your calves. And these are chicks. Some girls, you will see months, you see there. Maybe there are some girls that they have some type of skin that scars remain. And that is what you are doing to people's children. And you call it normal. You find yourself, you're in a terrible situation. You find yourself in a nasty work environment. And you remain there. And you see some other people leaving. And you're like, why are they leaving? You don't understand that you have been trained to accept trauma and dysfunction as normal, and you just take it. And these are institutions that have been put in place that should function normally. If a federal school were to function properly, you wouldn't be having that. You'd be having running water. And that will bring me now, let me move on from the corporal punishments, in quotes, of cutting grass to cleaning toilets. Badenoch mentioned cleaning toilets, and I agree. Yeah, so she mentioned cleaning toilets, how there's no running water and you are cleaning toilets. Guys, let me tell you something. Have you tried to clean a toilet when there is no water? You can say, oh, I'll fetch water and then I'll pour it in. No. This is a packed hostel with lots of girls and lots of poop. And these are images that I can never remove from my mind. The water closet is there, right? It is piled on, like, just this. And there was a toilet in the class area. I don't know how it is now. But there was in our class area, they had like a toilet in the class area where it's like a pit latrine, guys. Like, this is a federal government school. I don't know what it is like now, but it's a pit latrine. You go in and you see, it's like there's, how will I explain it now? So there's a toilet here, and there's a demarcation. And the demarcation is open, like it's open roofed, but the toilets are roofed. This toilet is in the class areas, and then it's roofed. But now on that demarcation that is open, poop, my guys, just poop lined. I developed serious constipation problem. Even till now, it's still a problem because I couldn't poop. Sometimes 3 weeks, and when it's time for me to poop, I'll be weeping, crying, sweating, dying. God. Like, I developed a traumatic experience with pooping because of that school. And get this, every class block had toilets. But the toilets were locked permanently and the water closets weren't working. It wasn't flowing. Again, I'll keep reiterating that. I don't know what it's like now. So Kemi, talking about how it was like a prison. She is correct, my people. She is correct. Let us call a spade a spade. All those people I saw in the comment section trying to permit it, trying to normalize it. You are the dysfunctional person. I saw other people trying to say what she's saying is true, and then you see the horde of traumatized, broken Nigerians hitting them, just trying to silence a voice of normalcy. That is odd, is weird. When you have to fetch water to bathe, when you can't turn on the water tap and then water is flowing. And she's correct. 20 people in a room is right. I can remember how many bunks then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 18 to 20 people, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. And in the bigger hostels, you can have even more girls there. And it's not I'll keep telling you, it's not normal. If I ever have a kid, I would never ever, I promised myself as I was leaving Shagamu, I was like, I will never ever, except I hate my kid, send my kid to that kind of boarding house. Ever. Never, ever, ever, ever. We can say whatever we want about Badenoch, but I don't believe that we have a right to tell her how to feel about the experiences that she went through in boarding house. And then I refuse to normalize what I went through. Some people may be fine with it. Some girls are built of rocks and stones and iron, but I'm not, please. So there should be running water 24/7. There should be light 24/7. If those are not available, then it is a flaw of the system. Anybody that complains about it, that points it out, should not be villainized. And this is inconsequential. It being Kemi Badenoch that said it. It's inconsequential. There is a system problem. Federal schools were built to show the best of what Nigerian government can offer as a secondary school experience for their citizens. For it to have degraded to what it was at the time in which I attended there for 6 months, then it's a failure of the system and should be pointed out. And anybody who mentions it should not be stoned. As a matter of fact, it should pull attention to the people that ought to make sure it works. You think that Nigeria is not wealthy enough to make sure that every single federal secondary school works right? Anywho, let me just stop here. So thank you so much for watching up to this point. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Thank you for listening, and I hope you like and subscribe to this video. I may be talking more on my experience as a boarding house student, but yeah, that's all. See you later. Bye.